that day was freaking incredible because I left there floating. I'm like, I just talked to Lars Ulrich from Metallica, and the day before I talked to Rodrigo Santoro and I got acting advice, and I shook Robert Duvall's hand, and I got to be in a scene with Nicole Kidman and Clive Owen, and I'm just part of this like world, you know? Like, I just felt like the happiest person in the world. So it's 2011, and I'm fresh out of college. I'm a shiny 20-something-year-old, and I don't really know what I want to do with my life. All I know is that in this moment, I'm very curious about acting. And so I created a actor's profile on casting networks, San Francisco Casting. And I see this post. They were looking for background actors to be a part of a big Hollywood production called Untitled Project. And I submitted my headshot, which I didn't have, which I created on my own in my bedroom. And that was it. And I sent it off. And later that night, I get an email that says that they would love for me to be a part of that production and to expect a call soon. And sure enough, I get a call from this guy, and he asks me if I can be in Oakland at 5:30 in the morning the next day. And of course, I was like, hell yeah, I can. And so I show up in Oakland, and it was in this abandoned train station. And the first thing they do is they send me straight to wardrobe, and they try on all these things on me. Ultimately, I ended up with this like wool kind of sweater with this jacket and then like a beret, you know? And then after that, they sent me to hair and makeup, which is where they cut my hair military style. And I hadn't had a haircut like that since like kindergarten, or since my mom would cut my hair or something, you know? Anyway, so now I have my wardrobe, now I have my haircut, and they put me in this tent with 300 other extras, and we're just there kind of mingling, shooting the shit, getting to know each other. And finally, what seemed to be like 13 hours, I don't know if you guys ever done background work, but sometimes you're there for long periods of time, just waiting and waiting and waiting. But anyway, finally we were in this big giant like train station, abandoned train station that they like repurposed and made it into like a giant bar kind of hotel lobby kind of area, you know? By the way, this movie ended up being Hemingway and Gellhorn, which starred Nicole Kidman and Clive Owen, which I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know if you guys ever seen a celebrity in person, but it's one of the most surreal experiences ever, because these are people that you've grew up like watching on films, and now they're like literally in front of your eyes, like a real human being, just like there in the space, just existing, you know? It's such a weird feeling. But anyway, off in the distance, I see Nicole Kidman, I see Clive Owen, and then Robert Duvall, a legendary Robert Duvall, is right there. And there's Tony Schlob, or whatever his name is, from Monk. And there's all these other faces that I recognize that I don't really know their names. And then I see Lars Ulrich from Metallica just walk up, and he starts greeting everyone. And immediately I get nervous. You know, I wasn't getting nervous with the other people, with the other celebrities, but those of you that know me know I'm a huge Metallica fan. Like, Metallica completely changed my life when I was a teenager and to this day. And when I saw Lars enter, I'm like, I get incredibly nervous because I know I have to say something. I know I have to talk to him, you know? I can't just like not talk to him. And so the PA comes and kind of like puts us where they need us. You know, I ended up, they gave me a couple of cigarettes, and I'm smoking cigarettes in the background with some other soldier guys. And then they keep putting us in little areas in the shot, you know? They keep moving us around, kind of like furniture. And then they tell us kind of like, okay, just have a conversation here. Oh, okay, now have a conversation there. Okay, now I want you to walk from here to there, you know? That was kind of like what we did all day. And all the celebrities are kind of far off in the distance doing their thing, you know? Closer to the camera. We're kind of way in the background. That's what they call us, background actors, right? Oh man, it's kind of hot in here. By the way, I forgot to mention, it was like 100 and something degrees outside. So, you know, I'm wearing all these layers, and I'm drenched. We're all drenched, but it kind of adds to the, you know, to the world that we're living in. And that was it. I finished my day's work, and they gave me one of these pink slips that was that says non-union. I was a non-union actor at the time. And it says here I worked at 6:30 a.m. and I ended at 8:45 p.m. It's a long shift, you know. And then they told me to come back at exactly the same time the next day. So again, I show up with my truck, you know, I have my wardrobe, my haircut's already intact, obviously. And same thing, I go to the tent, but this time I notice that there's less of us. Instead of 300 extras, now there's 200. And again, we're in the same building, move over here, go do that. Again, I see Nicole Kidman and Clive Owen far away, Lars Ulrich. I desperately want to talk to this man. But I'm like, is there gonna be a way yet that I can do that? I don't know. And so another day goes by, you know, they gave me another pink slip, and rinse and repeat. The next day, did the same exact thing. I did like 3 of these sessions the same exact way, you know. And throughout, you know, I got to meet a lot of cool people from, you know, all over the place, scattered throughout the Bay Area. You know, some people were just doing it for fun. Some people were like aspiring actors. Some people were, you know, just doing it for the money. You know, there was all kinds of people that I was meeting, all kinds of ages too. It was really, really cool. This is where it starts getting interesting, okay? So I'm sitting in this giant tent waiting. I've been waiting for like 13 hours again. And then one of the production people, they come over and they kind of scope us out. And I start realizing there's this pattern, you know? The closer you are to the entrance of the tent, the more they'll pull you in and like use you, you know? So I was like, oh, okay. So a lot of people, they would just go away in the back and they would just sit and, you know, just lounge or read or do something. But I started, you know, strategically standing right in the front of the tent. And I'm like, okay. And then I would start seeing, you know, a production person come forward, and I would just like prop up and like pretend like I'm talking. And then they would be like, oh, you, come here, follow me. And they would pull 3 of us. And then we'd be like closer and closer to camera. Every day I was getting closer and closer to camera, okay? So then, here's what happened. Here's the interesting part. Throughout the day, they're telling people to go home. They're sending people off, you know? It started with 300 a couple of days before, then there was 200, and then they started narrowing down to 100, and then 75, and I was scared that I was gonna be one of those people. But on this particular day, the director personally walked up to our tent, and he looks around, like scoping out everyone, and he makes eye contact with me, and he's like, you, come here. And I'm like, okay, you know. So I follow him to his director's lair, and he opens up his laptop and he's showing me this like stock footage of this actual human being from like found footage from that time, from that war. And he kind of looks like me, you know, and he tells me to study it, and he has me study it for a bit, you know. And I'm watching this guy, and he's got this rifle, and he's like taking cover, and all this debris is falling on him, and then he like, you know, goes over the barricade and shoots, and then he takes cover again. And he wanted me to basically replicate that exactly. So I'm watching this like so ultra focused, you know, trying to not disappoint, trying to do my job. And he tells me, tomorrow you're gonna learn how to shoot a gun. And I was like, yes sir, you know. And so now all of a sudden they start calling me by my name, you know. Now Carlos this, Carlos that, get Carlos that, get Carlos this. And they start sending people home. Out of those 300 people, out of those 300 extras, background actors, they narrow it down to 20 people. And I was one of the 20 people. And the next day is where it gets really freaking cool. They gave me this rifle with blanks, and they're teaching me how to shoot it. And of course I suck. I've never shot a gun in my life, but it was like, oh, you're good enough. Come on, let's go. And they take me to set, and they take me right in the front. The camera, this huge giant camera is right here next to me. And they put me right in front of the barricade, right? And they're telling me that, you know, they put 3 other extras right in front, and they tell us, you know, on action, you're gonna like shoot over the barricade and then take cover, and there's gonna be all this debris. Basically, the stock footage that I was replicating. They wanted me to do the exact same thing, right? After a couple of rehearsals, the director finally says, okay, we're ready to shoot. And so next thing I know, Nicole Kidman comes forward, Clive Owen comes from this way, and then Rodrigo Santoro, which is the the handsome guy from Love Actually is like right behind me. And then Lars from Metallica is like on the floor, like pretending he's a director, or like that's his role in the movie. He's like a director and he's like setting up the shot with his fingers. And then all these other faces that I recognize, but I don't know their names, like they're like surrounding me, you know? And it's just me and these other extras, these other guys. And the scene, I'm supposed to like just shoot over the barricade, you know? And they're doing their action behind me. And I'm looking around and I'm like, how is this life right now? This is insane, you know? How did I get so lucky? How did I end up being here? You know, and they all know my name. You know, they're all calling me Carlos. Not like, hey, get that extra over here. They're like, hey, get Carlos over here. And make sure he's okay. Does he need anything? You know? It was bizarre. And we do that scene like 5 or 6 times, and then they send me to my nicer tent with AC. And they ask me if I want anything to eat, you know, and they have like way better food options this time than the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that they were giving us or whatever. And then I'm sitting there eating, right? And I see Rodrigo Santoro like off in the distance, just hanging out by himself, you know? And I'm thinking like, well, I kind of just did a scene with him. I think we're like cool, right? I think we're like best friends. So then I finish eating and I walk up to him and I'm like, hey, is it cool if I sit next to you? He's like, sure, man, sure. And I sit with him and he like smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, should I smoke one too? I don't know how, but like production gave me these fake ones, but he's actually smoking a real one, you know? And so I'm sitting there with him and I'm just kind of like getting to know him as a person. You know, and he's talking about how he just did a animated film called Rio. You know, he voices like, I guess the dad character or something. And he's like, I don't know anything about animation. I don't know how it works. And I'm thinking, well, this is kind of perfect because I just graduated from an animation school. Let me tell you how it works. And so like I spent the next couple of minutes explaining, you know, the process of animation, you know, all the different levels that, you know, it's got to be taken from modeling to rigging to texture and lighting to the animation process, all that stuff. And he was like very like, oh, that's really interesting. Thanks for letting me know, you know? And then, you know, I took the opportunity to ask him, you know, I'm like, hey, listen, man, I'm an aspiring actor. You know, you've been doing it for a long time now. What advice would you give me to start off, you know, because I don't know what I'm doing, you know, I'm new at this. And he was very kind and he just said, you know, watch a lot of old films, learn from the masters. He says, watch a lot of Brando, watch a lot of Marlon Brando. He's like, that'll be your acting school right there. And then they call his name and he leaves. And I'm like, wow, that was really cool. I just bonded with a guy that I just did a scene with and he kind of respected me a little bit. And so my day was wrapped. And this time, instead of getting a thing called a non-union voucher, I got one of these bad boys. Different color. Now it says union voucher. I worked under SAG. I worked under the SAG union for 1 day. And for those of you that are trying to get into acting, you need 3 of these bad boys in order to qualify for a SAG card. And to get them, you have to do background work, or there's a bunch of ways to do it, but like this is how I did it. So this was my first one, okay? I'm driving home, right? And I'm thinking, what is life? That was incredible. I just had the best day ever. And I started thinking about Rodrigo Santoro. And I decided, you know, he's such a cool guy. I gotta get him a little gift. So one of the things that I'm known for, one of the things that I love doing is I love giving gifts to friends and family and just anyone really. And so I decided that I was going to do like a little caricature portrait of him and gift it to him, you know, and write a little message in the back thanking him for the advice, that kind of thing, you know. And so as soon as I got home, I opened up my Photoshop and I started just sketching a portrait of him. And I was really proud of it. So I wrote a little message in the back. The next morning, I get to set. You know, I got my wardrobe on. And I see him. And I go up to him and I'm like, hey, I got you a little gift. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. And he grabs it and he puts it in his pocket. Doesn't even look at it because he's like busy doing something, right? So then I go about my day. You know, same thing. They call me Carlos. Carlos this, Carlos that. You know, they treat me very well. And, you know, the director is, you know, Philip Kaufman is telling me, you know, okay, this is what you're gonna do today. And it was really cool because he's like directing me, and I felt like I was an actor I was a real like Hollywood actor, a real professional actor in that moment. Also, the cool thing about being an extra is you get to see, well, in my case, I was what they call a featured extra because I was working under SAG. And like, I was right in front of the camera. I get to watch these professional actors doing their work. I saw Tony Shalhoub doing a scene with Clive Owen. I saw how he prepared. I saw Robert Duvall, rest in peace. I saw him do his last performance in this film, you know? And I was watching him work, and I'm like, this is so cool. This is so incredible. And I remember Robert Duvall gave a speech, you know, after he rapped, just thanking production and talking about his career. And I remember I was the first one to shake his hand. I went like this, and he shook my hand. And then Lars from Metallica, he walks up, and he's like, everyone's like praising Robert Duvall and hugging him and stuff. And Lars makes his little Lars jokes, and he's like, what about me, huh? And I'm like, this is my opportunity. And so I crossed the little barricade that was there. I said, Lars, look, man, I'm such a huge fan. Like, I'm probably gonna get kicked out for talking to you. But like, and I just kept going and stuttering, and I don't even know what I'm talking about. And he's like, oh, hold on, what's your name, man? And I'm like, Carlos, where are you from? And I'm like, Oakland. He does his little head tilt, like, oh, okay, like really trying to engage with me. And I'm telling him how like, every time I go to a Metallica concert, they never play Fade to Black, and that's my favorite song. And he's like, oh man, I promise you, next time you see us, we'll play that song. And I'm like, okay, thanks, man. And then I said, for some reason, I just decided to say, by the way, I made a painting for you. Is there a way I can give it to you? And he's like, sure, man, bring it tomorrow. And I'd love to see it. Thank you so much for thinking about me. And I had no painting. I literally had nothing for him. And again, like, that day was freaking incredible because I left there floating. I'm like, I just talked to Lars Ulrich from Metallica, and the day before I talked to Rodrigo Santoro, and I got acting advice, and I shook Robert Duvall's hand, and I got to be in a scene with Nicole Kidman and Clive Owen, and I'm just part of this like world, you know? Like, I just felt like the happiest person in the world. So that night when I went home, I'm thinking like, okay, I have to make a painting for Lars because I promised him a painting, and I don't know if this will happen again. So I have to do it. And so I went home and I did this painting, this replica of one of my favorite painters, Y.S. Amin, Ecuadorian painter. And so I did this painting. And I remember staying up all night. I finished like around 3 a.m. and I had to be on set at 5 a.m. So I didn't sleep at all that night just to have this painting. And so I show up to set, again, wardrobe, and I'm asking everyone in production, can I take this painting with me? They're like, oh, we don't know, I don't know. Everyone's like saying they don't know. And so I show up to set with this giant painting, right? And all my soldier friends, they're all looking at it, and they're like, you painted this for Lars? This is so cool, man. I hope he gets it. And I'm like, yeah, I hope so too. And so I'm just like holding on for dear life because I don't want to give it to anyone. I don't want anyone to see it, you know, and like steal it or something, you know? And so finally I see Lars's assistant. Barbara is her name. Wow. I remembered her name. That's crazy. So I hand it to Barbara, and I'm like, can you please give this to Lars? And she's like, oh, this is a really beautiful painting. Thank you. Yeah, I'll give it to him. And I see her walk off, and I'm like, fuck yeah, you know? And then as she's walking off, freaking Rodrigo Santoro is like walking up that way. And I run up to him, right? And I'm like, yo, what's up, man? Hey, did you like your drawing? And he's like, yeah, it's really cool, man. But my name's Rodrigo, not Ricardo. And I'm thinking, I know, what do you mean? And he's like, on the back you put, to my friend Ricardo. And I'm like, oh my God, man, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. And he starts laughing. And he's like, it's all good, man, no worries. And then they call his name, and like he goes off and does his thing, right? And I'm sitting there feeling like an idiot, you know, for doing that. But, you know, you live and you learn. So anyway, as the day goes on, Philip Kaufman, the director, he calls me, and he calls like 3 or 4 other soldiers, right? And he puts us in this giant field, like off in the distance. And that day is very like, it's a very like foggy day. And I'm there with my rifle, right? And we're all waiting, and you know, there's like explosives, like little landmines, little like, I forgot what they're called, but the things that just that blow up. There's all these intricate things that are gonna blow up as we like, it's like a running scene. We're supposed to march basically with our rifles, and we're about to attack, you know? It's like a whole choreographed thing, you know, and I'm a part of it. And next thing you know, Nicole Kidman is walking in my direction, and her assistant is like holding an umbrella. And the closer she's getting to me, the more I see how tall this woman is. You know, she looked like 8 feet tall, like an Amazonian woman next to me, you know? And she's standing like literally 5 feet from me. And I'm just like, I don't know what to say to her. What do you say to Nicole Kidman, you know? Do you say anything? Do you make eye contact? Do you say good morning? I don't know. I'm just in my own world. I'm kind of like nervous. I'm like in my head, you know, I'm just like, And she looks at me. She makes eye contact. Well, it's like this, right? She makes eye contact with me. And she says, "It's a bit windy, isn't it?" I don't know how to do an Australian accent, but something like that. And I say, yeah, it is. And that's it. That was the dialogue between her and I. And then, boom, action. And me and the soldiers start running, and she's running behind us. And I'm just like, like screaming at the top of my lungs, you know? There's explosives that start going off, boom, boom. It's freaking incredible. And I'm like, I felt all this adrenaline. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I just experienced that. That was my life. Like, how the hell did that happen? You know, the whole time I'm just grateful. I'm like confused. I'm like, me? Honestly, that's why I created this channel in the first place, because I have so many stories to share from my experience as an actor and as a musician, and just so many anecdotes that I have that I kind of want to just put into one space where I can just kind of like relive them a little bit, you know? Oh, by the way, my name's Carlos Alfredo Jr. I've been pursuing a career in acting for the past 10 years. I've had so many opportunities, so many experiences, so many stories to share. So thank you all for being here and hearing my stories. But anyway, that was it. I rapped, and they sent me home with another one of these pink union vouchers. And I remember on the drive home, I decided that night that this is something that I wanted to pursue, like full time. I enjoyed every freaking minute of that, and I wanted more, you know? I got so lucky to be a part of that production. I got so spoiled. The fact that director Philip Kaufman personally chose me to be in that scene, and then earning my 2 SAG vouchers, and then working with Nicole Kidman, having that small interaction with her, with Clive Owen, with, you know, Robert Duvall, with obviously Lars Ulrich from Metallica. That freaking blew my mind. And on top of that, he has a painting of mine, you know? I don't know if he still has it, or he threw it away, or if it's like in his bedroom. I have no idea. I guess the lesson that came from this is literally just try everything. Just try anything. Like, you don't know what you don't know. Like, I had this little curiosity about being an actor, and so I started submitting myself, and somehow I ended up in this huge Hollywood production, you know? You never know. If you want to try photography, if you want to try dancing, if you want to try acting, there's so many things. A musical instrument, like, just literally just try anything. You can either find out that it's not your thing, or you can find out like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever done in my entire life. For me, it made me excited about what was out there, you know? What an acting career would look like for me. And that's where it all started. One more thing before I leave. I want to show you guys how much I got paid, okay? So, after a few months, the checks started coming in, right? And my sister, my older sister, who we call Anshu, she started writing on them, you know? And she put right here, my half. And on this check, I got $58.16, okay? And then another one arrived, and she put my dinner. And on this one, I got $97.20. And then this one, $107.21. And they just kept coming for a while. And I was, you know, I think overall I made, what does it say here? $934.35. for the whole time I was an extra. But it wasn't about the money, it was about the experience, you know? It was cool to like show my parents and my family like, hey, look, I made some money being an actor. Hint, hint, which came later, you know? That's another story to tell. Anyways, thank you so much, guys, for checking out my channel. I have so many more stories to share. Stick around, subscribe, like this video, share it to someone who's an aspiring actor who wants to know a little bit more of what it's like. But yeah, these are my stories. These are my experiences. Till next time, love you guys. Thank you.